Hello and welcome. My name is Natty Cash, and we are back to work on our Imperialism series here. We're actually into part 13 already, which is incredible. Um, let's keep this thing going. Let's whittle these teams down one at a time to see which team will be the best program in the country. Let's get started. So we're here at the wheel. I just want to say now that we're actually starting to whittle down enough teams that we can see some of the names on the wheels, if you feel like there's a team that's on our map that isn't on here for some reason, I've been getting a couple glitches. Please let me know, and I will make sure that they are on here properly. To make sure that we have a fair choice of being able to pick from anyone here. So, without further ado, let's get our first matchup of the day. It looks like this time we're going to see the Iowa Hawkeyes in action. And what direction are we going to take them in? Looks like this time we're going to head off to the due west. And we're going to say that means the Hawkeyes are going to go straight up against their interstate rival in the Iowa State Cyclones. And it is Iowa State that gets the victory here. Relatively close, but it is Iowa State that is winning most of the game, or basically all the game. Iowa didn't have enough to kind of push up against them and make it a closer matchup, and so Iowa State gets to expand for the first time. And now Iowa State controls most of their home state and gets a nice piece of land out of their first victory. But we are back to the wheel. Let's see where we're headed off to next. And it looks like we're headed south as we're going to see Ole Miss in action. And what direction are they going to try to expand as they try to go for their first victory? Looks like they're headed down to the southeast, which means for them going southeast is they're taking on Alabama. And unfortunately, Ole Miss and the Rebels didn't have enough to take down the Crimson Tide. So Crimson Tide gain a lead early and maintain that lead all the way to another victory. And as we see here, Alabama takes another piece of land, expanding further west, now having a decent hold on northern Mississippi here as well. But we're back to the wheel. Let's see where we're headed off to next. And it looks like this time we're going to see Columbia in action once again. And let's see what direction Columbia is going to try to expand in. It looks like they're going to try to go to the northeast, which regardless how north it was, northeast still means they're going to have to take on Binghamton, the Bearcats from Binghamton. And it is the Bearcats that get the victory here. A close game throughout, a back and forth game, but as we got to the latter stages of the second half, Binghamton went on a run, and it was at the right time to give them their victory. And now Binghamton, with another victory under their belt, has now a clear distinction of land in this area and is competing for one of the larger pieces of land in the northeast. But back to the wheel we go. Let's see where we're off to next. Looks like we're going to see be in a similar spot as Iona is going to be in action. And what direction are they going to try to expand in? Looks like they're headed off to the southwest, which means Binghamton is up once again as Southwest takes them into newly acquired Binghamton territory. But it's the Gales of Iona that take advantage, and they're the ones that get the win in this case. They took the lead early, and they never squandered it, going and getting their first victory of the series. And just as easy as that, you can be winning one game, and then the next game you lose, and now Iona has expanded their territory pretty darn significantly. But back to the wheel we go. And it looks like we're off to see Jackson State in action. And let's see what direction they're going to try to expand in. Looks like they're trying to go down to the southeast, which means they're going to take on the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. And it is Southern Miss that get the victory here. They took a lead in the first half and then were able to extend it further and maintain that throughout to get themselves another victory. And now Southern Miss has not only expanded south into Louisiana, they've expanded further north and taken a nice big chunk out of Mississippi here as well. But we are back to the spinner here. Let's see where we're going to next. And it looks like we're going to see Harvard in action. And let's see what direction they're going to go in. Looks like they're going to try to head kind of east or southeast, which based on how this map is set up, Harvard going to the southeast means they're going to touch UMass Lowell, and there's going to be a clash between these two programs. And in thrilling fashion, it is UMass Lowell that gets the victory here. Back and forth game throughout the entirety, many lead changes, but it is UMass Lowell that gets the final lead change and comes away with yet another victory. And now UMass Lowell gets the rest of the Boston metropolitan area and has eliminated them off the board and still continues their dominance in New England. But we're back to the spinner. Let's see where we're going next. Looks like we're going to now see the Youngstown State Penguins in action. This is their first time trying to expand, and they're going to try to go to the south, a little bit to the southwest. And this one was really tough to figure out, but because it's pointing south and a little bit west, it seems like from the middle of their mascot logo, it's pointing towards Xavier, so we're going to have them go up against the Xavier Musketeers. And it is Xavier that continues their dominance in the region, winning by a fairly handily margin, being only one of the few teams to actually score 100 points in one of these games. And Xavier once again gets their expansion. This time, I think this is one of the first times. Oh no, that's not true. But they continue to expand further east. For some reason, I thought they hadn't expanded that direction, but they certainly have. They expand further east and get their first bit of land in Pennsylvania. But we're back to the wheel to see where we're headed off to next. And it looks like this time we're going out west to see New Mexico in action. And they have expanded once before, but let's see what direction they're going to try to go in. Looks like they're trying to head east, maybe a little bit northeast, which based on that angle being slightly northeast from their middle of the logo, it points to this piece of land, meaning they're going to have to take on Wichita State. And it is Wichita State that gets another victory here. It was a close game for a good portion of the first half, but then in the second half, Wichita State were able to get a lead, and they didn't give that up, cruising to yet another victory. And now Wichita State has a pretty big chunk of land as they take a good portion of New Mexico and they push all the way west into Arizona as well, which strangely enough means now they have a border with UCLA, which is crazy to see, but that's going to happen more and more when we start getting bigger and bigger programs here. But we are back to the wheel. Let's see where we're headed off to next. Looks like this time we're going to go to the west coast and see Loyola Marymount in action. And what direction are they going to try to attack in? Looks like they're going inland as they go a little bit northeast, which for them going northeast means they're going to take on Fresno State. And in the end, we do have Fresno State getting the victory. Now, Fresno State were winning the entire game, but Loyola Marymount put out a great run to try to make it close and even tied the game at some point, but Fresno State had just enough to gain the victory over them. Now Fresno State has two coastlines, one further north in California and now a southern California coast, as Loyola Marymount are off the board. And I just noticed now that we're down under 100 teams now. As we're now down, we see the final 100. Okay, Loyola Marymount would have been in that 100. And we're going to now see Southern Miss in action again. More and more we're going to see teams that are in action more frequently, and we'll see if Southern Miss can expand in that direction. And with the arrow pointing kind of southeast, that means Southern Miss have to go up against Alabama. And what became a very close game was probably the closest that someone's been to trying to take down Alabama. A close game throughout with Southern Miss taking a lead, but with some lead changes back and forth, Alabama was able to take the lead in the second half. And even though there was a late charge with Southern Miss in the end, Alabama was able to hold on to the victory. And now Alabama owns their entire state for the first time, and now has the majority of Mississippi as well, and has pushed into Louisiana as they continue to become a dominant piece in this part of the country. But we're back to the wheel to see who we're going to see come up next. And it looks like we're going to see Sam Houston State in action again. And what direction are they going to try to expand in? Looks like they're going to be heading south. Can they head south? Them heading south means they're going to hit this piece of land, which means they're going to have to take on the Texas Longhorns. And the miracle of Sam Houston State strikes again as they take down the Texas Longhorns. Sam Houston State took a lead, and then Texas took a pretty big lead and into the second half, but Sam Houston State went on a run, took the lead back, and were able to come away with the victory. How incredible is that? And with that, Sam Houston State now has a pretty significant chunk of eastern Texas, and they've now completely surrounded Texas A&M as well. But we are back to the wheel. We got to keep going, eliminating one team at a time. And this time we're going to see the Utah State Aggies in action. Now their reach is pretty grand because of the size of their land, but they're going to start pushing to the southwest, which means for them, Utah State are going to push in and try to take more of their home state away from the Utah Valley Wolverines. And in another big upset, Utah Valley are able to get the win over Utah State. Utah State had the lead many different times, but could never pull ahead far enough, and Utah Valley did just enough to keep the win in the end. And just like that, Utah Valley and the Wolverines have taken the biggest piece of landmass that is on that's currently owned here by taking almost owning all of Utah and now many other states as well. But we're back to the wheel as we got to keep going, narrowing these teams down one by one, and it's going to be Wichita State that we see in action once again. Now, which direction are they going to try to expand? Looks like they're trying to head down to the southwest, which is again tough to determine, but based on the angle, I think southwest just points them to go up against New Mexico State. And it is Wichita State that once again get the victory. They take a lead early on, and they don't relinquish it for the rest of the game, getting once again another victory under their belt. And now Wichita State takes a majority of the state of New Mexico and continues their conquest. Now let's see where we're off to next. Looks like we're going to now see Oklahoma in action. Now they haven't gotten into action just yet. It looks like they're going to try to go east. It's a little bit to the northeast, which means Oklahoma are also going to take on Wichita State and to see if they can end their streak. And in a very tight game, it is Wichita State that falls to the Oklahoma Sooners. You see that Wichita State took a lead the first half, but Oklahoma was able to bring it back. And then with a number of lead changes, Oklahoma was able to maintain a lead into the final minutes and get their first victory on the board. And all it takes is one victory to turn your fortunes around and give yourself a name in this game. And Oklahoma has done just that by now taking a big chunk of land as their first victory. And we are back to the wheel once again. And it looks like we're going to see Ohio State once again in action. Now that they've got their name on the board, what direction are they going to try to expand? Looks like they're trying to go to the southeast. Sorry, I misspoke. I do mean the southwest, which means that's going to put Ohio State up against Creighton. And I misspoke once again. This is Iowa State against Creighton. And in a really tight battle, it is Creighton that gets the victory. Creighton had a lead to begin with. Iowa State fought back. And after a number of lead changes, it came right down to, looks like, the very last basket for Creighton to then get the victory in the end. Wow, what a close battle. And this gives Creighton their first big expansion and puts their name up on the board for potentially dominant teams in this area. But we keep going, and we're going to see where we're off to next. Looks like we're headed out west as we're going to see San Jose State in action. And what direction are they going to try to challenge in? Looks like they're going to try to head south, which means San Jose State are going to take on Fresno State. And in a very tight battle, it is Fresno State that gets the victory. San Jose State had the lead for the majority of the game, but Fresno State poured it on in the second half, and after a tight battle, they're the ones that end up getting the last laugh and getting the victory against San Jose State. And Fresno State further expands, getting more of the state of California in the San Francisco area. But we're back to the wheel. Let's see where we're headed off to next. It looks like we're going to see Murray State in action. This will be their first time in action, as they're going to try to go to the go to the west. And going due west means they would take on the UT Martin Skyhawks. And it is the Skyhawks that get the victory in a pretty close one all around. UT Martin were leading the entire time, and Murray State tried to get back into it a number of times, but could never overcome the Skyhawks, meaning UT Martin get their first chance to expand. And it is UT Martin that get their chance to take some land and become a bit of a player in this area. And we're back to the wheel to see where we're off to next. And this time we're going to see Louisiana Monroe in action. And this will be their first time to try to expand, as they're going to try to go to the east. But going due east for them means they have to take on the behemoth that is Alabama. And it is Alabama once again that get the victory. Even though they try to keep it close to the beginning, Alabama was able to excel and push their lead and eventually get once again another victory. And once again Alabama expand further west, taking up even more territory in Louisiana. But let's spin the wheel again. Let's see where we're headed to now. It looks like we're going to see Brown University in action. And we don't even have to spin the spinner here. Brown University is surrounded by UConn, so they have to take UConn on as their only possible opponent. And it is UConn that get the victory here. They take an early lead and don't really relinquish it, getting once again another victory. And now the Massachusetts area is being more occupied by other teams, and UConn here has expanded further, creating their solid block of dark blue in this area. And with that, I think I'm going to have to leave that there for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the series as much as I am. It's fun to see all the different changes that go on. So, for example, Utah Valley or Oklahoma, or even just some of the bigger teams getting a little bit more land as well, seeing new teams come up. It's great to see the change of this map every single time. So, again, please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this series. Stay tuned. There will always be more to come. Okay, thank you very much for watching and supporting. I'll see you next time.